Hello everyone. We are studying now about the radiation and black body spectrum. So in our last lectures, we have already seen about what is black body, what are the related laws. For example, we have studied about Wien's law, we have studied about Rayleigh-Jean's law, and we found that each of that law could explain only the part of radiation, right? It was only valid, for example, Wien's law was valid only for longer wavelength, shorter wavelength, whereas Rayleigh-Jean's law was valid for longer wavelength, right? So there is a need to find some law which could be valid for whole spectrum, and that's why Planck has given his hypothesis, which was based on quantum theory, right? So today's lecture objective is to understand the Planck's radiation law, and second objective is to deduce different laws from the Planck's law. Actually, both of the laws, for example, Wien's law or Rayleigh-Jean's law, should also be valid uh, if we uh, if we deduce these from the Planck's radiation law. Planck's radiation law is a general form for explaining whole spectrum. So that means the Wien's law and Rayleigh-Jean's law should be derived from the Planck's radiation law. If we put these particular conditions like a shorter wavelength and longer wavelength, then it should be converted to Wien's and Rayleigh-Jean's law, or maybe Stephen's law also. So the outcome of today's lecture, after attending this lecture, you will be able to learn about the limitation of classical theory. The first point, this is very important point, we will see how it is failed to explain this spectrum. Then second is, you will get the knowledge of Planck's quantum postulate. We will define which hypothesis is given by Planck. That was very important and is the basis of today's quantum mechanics. And finally, we will see how to deduce different laws using Planck's radiation law, and we will see the derivation of these laws from Planck law, right? So the content for today's lecture, to attain these objectives, are divided into several points. The first point is the failure of classical theory. Second is Planck's quantum postulates. Then we will derive Planck's radiation law. And as I was telling, that Wien's law, Rayleigh-Jean's law, or Stephen's law should also be derived from Planck's radiation law, because Planck's radiation law is a generalized form to explain whole black body spectrum. So the part of these should also be derived from Planck's radiation law. So the next three topic is related to the derivations of Wien's law, Rayleigh-Jean's law, Wien's displacement law, and Stephen's law from Planck's radiation law. Okay, these are the reference book which you can use to study further about these topics. Okay, these are very nicely written. Particularly, I would recommend this Heat and Thermodynamics, Brijlal and N. Subramaniam. So you can go through these books. These are very simple and very nice. Okay, now let us go to our first topic, that is related to failure of classical theory and origin of Planck's theory. So we have seen the derivation of Wien's law and Rayleigh-Jean's law, and that were resulting in a discrepancy which was known as ultraviolet catastrophe, and that has suggested a fatal failure of classical physics, right? So this failure insisted some scientists that the discovery of new theory is necessary, and that led Planck to discover that radiation is emitted in quanta form. The energy is not continuous, that is in the form of energy bundles that are known as quanta, and the energy of these quanta is h nu. Okay, in 1900 he came up with a formula for spectral energy density of black body radiation, as it is given by E nu d nu equals to 8 pi h upon c cube into nu cube d nu upon e to the power h nu upon kt minus 1. That is our formula number 1. It was an empirical formula to obtain the experimental observed distribution of energy in the black body spectrum. It was based on his well-known quantum theory of heat radiation. According to this theory, the energy distribution can also be given in the form of wavelength, in terms of wavelength, and that the formula is given by E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc upon lambda to the power 5 into e to the power hc upon lambda kt minus 1 into d lambda. This relation agrees with the experimental curves very well. It could explain the whole range of wavelengths of black body spectrum. It was not like Wien's law and Rayleigh-Jean's law, which were valid for shorter wavelength and longer wavelength respectively, right? So this theory given by Planck has some certain postulates which can be pointed out in two basic points, two important points. The first point is given by a black body radiation chamber is filled up not only with radiation but also with simple harmonic oscillators, or we can call it resonators, or we can term it as energy emitters also. They are having the dimensions of molecular size, okay, and these harmonic oscillators or resonators are named as Planck's oscillator or Planck's resonators, which can vibrate with all the possible frequencies, right? The vibrations of the resonator enters 1 degree of freedom only. This is important point. The second point is the oscillators or resonators cannot radiate or absorb energy continuously. This point is very important and the basic of whole quantum mechanics for today, right? So they have said that the oscillators cannot radiate or absorb energy continuously, but the energy is emitted or absorbed in the form of packet of energy bundle, and these are termed as quanta, and they later on these were termed as photons. Each photon has energy of h nu, where h is Planck constant and nu is the frequency of that photon, right? So the constant was calculated for its value, and the value is found as 6.624 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second, right? This assumption is the most revolutionary in character. As I told, this is the basis of whole quantum theory, quantum mechanics, right? In the other words, if we recall this, the theory states that the exchange of energy between radiation and matter, or radiation and surroundings, or matter and surroundings, that cannot take place continuously, but it can take place only in certain multiples of fundamental frequency of resonators, right? As the energy of a photon is equal to 0 h nu 2 h nu, or we can say it is in multiples of small units, that is known as quantum. So these are about Planck's quantum postulates. Now in the next topic we will derive Planck's radiation law, which is capable to explain whole black body spectrum. Okay, now let us assume that let us actually to derive this Planck's radiation law, it will be done in two steps. In the first step, the number of resonators per unit volume will be calculated that are lying in the frequency range of nu and nu plus d nu. And in the second step, the average energy of Planck's resonators will be calculated. So let us start the first part, number of resonators per unit volume that are lying in the frequency range of nu and nu plus d nu. Now to calculate, to derive this, let us consider that the radiation is enclosed in a hollow cubic enclosure. That box is cubic in shape, okay, and the walls of this cubic box is completely reflecting. So according to electromagnetic theory, the radiation is supposed to consist of a number of waves. Electromagnetic theory says that radiation always in wave form. So now we are considering that inside this cubic enclosure, the radiation is in the number of waves form, right? And it can travel in all the possible direction inside that box. And that's why when it is moving in the waveform, it will strike with the walls and then reflect back again. So that means there will be multiple reflections taking place inside the hollow cubic enclosure. If we consider it from the example of normal string that is bound from both ends. Okay, so the stationary waves inside the box, they will be formed with the balls as a nodal points. You can see if we tie one string between two balls or two ends and we give some vibration there, there will be some waves are produced. Very similarly, we can assume the walls of cubic enclosure is the nodes and the waves are oscillating between these nodes, right? So according to theory, this is also understood that the nodes are formed at the end points of the string, right, due to stationary vibrations, and only some discrete frequency of vibrations are allowed. If we consider that L is the length of a string, the allowed wavelengths are given by, according to wave theory, lambda equals to 2L upon n, where n is integer number, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 to the infinite and so on infinite, right? Corresponding frequency will be given by mu equals to c upon lambda. So we can put the value of lambda here. It will become nc upon 2L, where n equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the case when we learned about the stationary vibration in a string that is bound from both ends, right? Now if we apply this to our box also, all these frequencies are very similar, all these vibrations are very similar. The only difference will be due to the dimensions. In string case, it was two-dimensional case, but now because we are talking about the box, it is a three-dimensional space, right? Now let us consider, so the things are same, the only difference is for due to dimensions, right? So now let us consider that each side of cube is of a dimension. The length, width and height is a. Now if we take three intersecting edge of the cube as x direction, y direction and z direction of Cartesian coordinate system, so the cos alpha, cos beta and cos gamma will be the direction cosines of the propagation direction of a particular wave. Okay, so the projection of the edges of the cube on the direction of propagation will be a into cos alpha, a into cos beta and a into cos gamma respectively in all three directions, right? In this case, the waves will be allowed only for which all the faces of cube form nodal planes. The nodes are important. For this, the allowed wavelengths have to satisfy three conditions of the kind of equation one, which we have given for the string case. It was for two-dimensional, but now we are considering for three-dimensional. So that's why there we have taken the length of string as L. Now we are taking here as a cos alpha, a cos beta and a cos gamma for three directions. So the lambda will be given by 2L upon n, that will be 2a cos alpha upon n1, lambda equals to 2a cos beta upon n2, and lambda equals to 2a cos gamma upon n3. That is for three different directions, where n1, n2, n3 are positive integers. Now we know for the direction cosines, there is a trigonometric condition that is satisfied by cos square alpha plus cos square beta plus cos square gamma equals to 1. That is just a trigonometric condition of direction cosine. If you study the wave optics, then you will see everything there. Now substituting the values of cos alpha, cos beta and cos gamma in this equation, we can get the equation from here. Cos alpha equals to n1 lambda upon 2a, cos beta equals to n2 lambda upon 2a. So we are putting these values here in this equation, and it will become n1 square lambda square upon 4a square plus n2 square lambda square upon 4a square plus n3 square lambda square upon 4a square equals to 1. Now rearranging this, because lambda square upon 4a square is common, we can take it on the other side. The equation will form as n1 square plus n2 square plus n3 square equals to 4a square upon lambda square equals to 2a upon lambda to the power 2. Now we can write is, we can change this lambda into form of frequency, and the equation will become n1 square plus n2 square plus n equals to t to the power 2. So this equation is giving the number of allowed frequencies, or we can call it mode of vibrations inside the cubic box, right? The total number of modes of vibrations are the total number of possible sets of n1, n2, and n3. Now this is for 3-dimensional. If we solve this, it would be difficult if we solve directly. So let us assume a simple case of 2-dimensional problem. Now for 2-dimensional, here it was 3-dimensional, so we use n1, n2, n3. If we are changing it to 2-dimensional, it will become n1 square plus n2 square equals to, that would be same, 2a nu upon c to the power 2, right? And if you see this equation, it is nothing but an equation of circle, x square plus y square equals to a square. This is a equation of circle with a radius of 2a nu upon c. So that means if we plot a graph between n1 on x-axis and n2 on y-axis, then for a given value of nu, we get all the points lying on a circle, right, of this one. Now the points on the circle will correspond to a frequency nu, while those lying inside the circle corresponding to frequency less than nu. We are forming a circle. All the points on this circle will be nu, but if we go inside, it will be less. If we go outside the circle, it will be more than nu. Okay, so the total number of modes of vibration within frequency interval, for example, we are considering nu and nu plus d nu. We are forming two different circles, nu radius and d nu radius. So between these, the total number of modes of vibration will be equal to the area of that ring, right? The area in that positive quadrant between two circles of radii 2a nu upon c and 2a nu plus d nu upon c will be given by the area of quadrant, right? The area of quadrant can be given by, you know, the area of radius is given by pi r square, right? But we are now talking about only one quadrant, that can be equivalent to our square, right? That can be equivalent to that. So if it is only quadrant, we will divide the total area by 4. So it becomes 1 by 4 pi r square. Now we are considering the area between two different circles only in this part. So it will be 1 by 4 pi bracket r1 square minus r2 square, and r1 is given by 2a nu and r2 is given by 2a nu plus d nu upon c. So we are putting the same thing, 1 by 4 pi into 2a nu plus d nu upon c to the power 2 minus 2a nu upon c to the power 2. If we solve this, we get pi by 4 into 8a square nu d nu upon c square, right? We are arranging it again, so it will become 2 pi a square nu upon c square into d nu. This is for 2-dimensional, and if it is 2-dimensional, we considered it as a circle. Now if we extend it to 3-dimensional, circle can be changed to sphere, okay? And if it is changing to sphere, what will happen? Now we have taken area, but for the case of 3-dimension, we will take the volume f of 1/8 part of the sphere. Only one part will be taken as a that will be equivalent to our cubic structure. That will be very equivalent, very similar to that cubic area, and that's why we are considering that this is the volume of 1/8 part of sphere. So the number of modes of vibration within frequency range nu and nu plus d nu will be equals to 1/8 volume of the spherical shell with radii one shell and the second shell on the around this, right? If we are taking around this, we will take only 1/8 of this part, and that will be given by 1/8 into the volume difference of two different spheres. So that is given by 4/3 pi r cube minus 4/3 pi r 1 cube. R is this one, R is this one, and R1 is this one. So it is given by 1/8 into 4/3 pi into 2a upon nu plus d nu upon c to the power 3 minus 2a nu upon c to the power 3. If we solve this equation, we get 4 pi a cube into nu square upon c cube into d nu. Now we know the volume of cube is given by a cube, and that can be written as V. We are considering that V is the volume of cube, so we can replace this, and to form this it will become 4 pi V nu square upon c cube into d nu. These are the number of modes of vibration inside the cubic enclosure with frequency range of nu and nu plus d nu. Now these are total number. If we consider the number of modes per unit by volume, then we can divide this by the volume of that cubic enclosure. So that's what we are doing. The number of modes of vibration per unit volume with frequency range nu and nu plus d nu will be given by 4 pi nu square upon c cube into d nu. Now we know that the black body radiation is very similar to the light, and that's why it travels with the velocity of light c, and it is transverse in character, and that's why the total number of modes of vibration will be double as that of longitudinal waves. Okay, so this was the calculation by considering that this is longitudinal wave. So if we consider now black body radiation or electromagnetic waves, the number of waves will be double of this, and that's what we have done for black body radiation or electromagnetic waves. The number of modes of vibration per unit volume within frequency range nu and nu plus d nu will be given by 2 into 4 pi nu square upon c cube into d nu, and finally we get this expression. This is the first part. We have got number of modes per unit volume. Now we will calculate the average energy of Planck's oscillator. Let us consider that n is the total number of Planck's resonator and E are the total energy corresponding to these resonators. Then average energy per Planck's oscillator will be given by epsilon dash equals to E upon n. The total energy divided by total number of resonators. This will give you average energy per Planck's resonator or oscillator. Now, if we recall Maxwell's law of molecular motion, we know that if the energy of resonators are given by 0, epsilon, 2 epsilon, 3 epsilon, and so on, then the number of resonators will be in ratio of 1 raised to e to the power minus epsilon upon kt, raised to e to the power minus 2 epsilon upon kt, and so on. Right? Now let us consider that n0 is the number of resonators which are having energy 0. Then the number of resonators n1 having energy epsilon will be given by n0 into e to the power minus epsilon upon kt. Similarly, the number of resonators which are having energy 2 epsilon will be given by n0 into e to the power minus 2 epsilon upon kt. Similarly, if we go to rth number, that the number of resonators are nr, then the energy will be n0 e to the power minus r epsilon upon kt, and so on. So n, the total number can be given by n0 plus n1 plus n2 plus and so on nr. Now we can replace the values. N1 will be equals to n0 e to the power minus epsilon upon kt. Similarly, n2 will be given by n0 e to the power minus 2 epsilon upon kt, and we have replaced this. Now you see n0 is common among them. We can take n0 outside, it will become 1 plus e to the power minus epsilon upon kt plus e to the power minus 2 epsilon upon kt. If we consider for the simplicity that e to the power minus epsilon upon kt equals to y. We are putting it for the simplicity. This equation will change to n equals to n naught into 1 plus y squared plus so on, y to the power plus and so on, right? Now this is nothing, but we can write it as a short form of this expression. It will become 1 minus y to the power minus 1. We can write this. So it will become n0 into 1 minus y to the power minus 1. We can take it on the downside. It will become denominator n0 divided by 1 minus y. Okay. Now we will talk about the energy of Planck's resonator. Now we have already seen the energy will be given by that one, 0 epsilon, 2 epsilon, 3 epsilon, and so on. So we can write the total energy will be equals to E equals to 0 into n0 plus epsilon energy 1 is n1. So epsilon into n1 plus 2 epsilon energy, the number of resonators are n2. So 2 epsilon into n2 plus so on r epsilon into nr. Okay. So we can replace this n1 by n0 into e to the power minus epsilon upon kt. Similarly, we can replace n2 by n0 into e to the power minus 2 epsilon upon kt, and so on. We can write this same form. Now you can see here n0 epsilon are common because this term will be 0. So we can replace this. We can reduce this term from here. And the remaining part, you can see epsilon and n naught is common among all the terms. You can take it outside n0 epsilon into e to the power minus epsilon upon kt plus 2 into e to the power minus 2 epsilon upon kt plus so on plus r e to the power minus r epsilon upon kt plus so on, right? Now we are taking this also outside. It will become n0 epsilon e to the power minus epsilon upon kt bracket 1 plus 2 e to the power minus epsilon upon kt plus so on, right? Now we are considering this as y. We are putting it again for the simplicity, for the conversion of this bracket into the shorter form. It will again change to n0 epsilon. This is y. It will become 1 plus 2y plus so on r into y. Okay. Now if we look at this again, it will become 1 minus y to the power. Similar to the previous case, it was that time it was 1 plus e to the power minus epsilon upon kt plus so on, right? Now it is 1 plus 2 e to the power minus epsilon upon kt. So it will form to 1 minus y to the power minus 2. If we take it in the denominator, it will change to e equals to n0 epsilon by upon 1 minus y to the power 2. Now putting these values of e and n from the last expression in equation number 7, we will get the average energy of a resonator as epsilon dash equals to n0 epsilon y upon 1 minus y square, that is e, divided by n. N is given by n0 divided by 1 minus y. Okay, now this 1 minus y is cancelled out this one, and n0 is cancelled out this one. So the remaining part will be epsilon y upon 1 minus y. Now we can replace y by the original value. It will become epsilon e to the power minus epsilon upon kt divided by 1 minus e to the power minus epsilon upon kt. Now we are taking it to the downside, denominator side. It will change the equation as epsilon upon e to the power epsilon upon kt minus 1. Now we know, according to the Planck's hypothesis, epsilon is given by h nu. The energy is given by h nu. So equation 8 can be written as epsilon dash equals to h nu upon e to the power h nu upon kt minus 1. So the energy density belonging to the range d nu can be obtained by multiplying the average energy. This was the average energy. This, if we multiply this with the number of oscillator per unit volume, we will get the energy density belonging to the range d nu. So what we get is E nu d nu equals to this one into the this parameter, right? The average energy of Planck's oscillator and the number of oscillator per unit volume. So we multiply these two. After solving, we get the final equation as E nu d nu equals to 8 pi h cube upon c cube into 1 upon e to the power h nu upon kt minus 1 into d nu, where E nu d nu is the energy density belonging to the range d nu. This equation is known as Planck's radiation law, and this is given in terms of frequency. Now similarly, we can also derive in terms of wavelengths. We can simply replace nu equals to c upon lambda. From here we can get the value of d nu, that is minus c upon lambda square into d lambda. We get, after putting this value in this equation, we get E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi sc upon lambda to the power 5 into d lambda upon e to the power sc upon lambda kt minus 1, and this is known as Planck's radiation law in terms of wavelength. So that's all for the derivation of Planck's radiation law. Now we will see how to deduce Wien's law and Rayleigh-Jean's law from Planck's radiation law. So as we know that Wien's law is valid at shorter wavelength, so we will consider first the case of shorter wavelength. Now you already have seen this Planck radiation law is given by E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc upon lambda to the power 5 into d lambda upon e to the power hc upon lambda t minus 1. This is equation number 11. Now if we consider that this is the case for shorter wavelength, then in that case what will happen? The term e to the power hc upon lambda kt will become large, because lambda is in the downside, in the denominator. So that means this term will become large as compared to 1. So we can write this E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc upon lambda to the power 5 into d lambda upon e to the power hc upon lambda kt only. We can ignore 1 in comparison to this term. Right. Now you see 8 pi h and c all are constants. So we can replace this with another constant, and also here h and c both are constant. We can replace this term also from constant. This k also is constant. So overall we are replacing this term from a, and hc upon k is replaced by b. So final expression is becoming E lambda d lambda equals to a upon lambda to the power 5 into d lambda upon e to the power b upon lambda t. If we rearrange this, we find E lambda d lambda equals to a into lambda to the power minus 5 into e to the power minus b upon lambda t into d lambda, and this is nothing but representing Wien's law of energy distribution. Okay. Now the other case was for longer wavelength, larger wavelength. So we will consider the next case is for longer wavelength. If we consider longer wavelength, what happened? This e to the power hc upon lambda kt can be approximated to 1 plus hc upon lambda kt according to the expansion law of e to the power x equals to 1 plus x square plus and so on. Now if this term is longer, in that case its total term will become very small, and if we go for higher values, higher power values, like e to the power hc upon lambda kt will be 1 plus hc upon lambda kt plus hc upon lambda kt whole square, that quantity will become more smaller. So we can just approximate it to 1 plus hc upon lambda kt only. So the equation will be reduced to, the Planck's radiation law will reduce to E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc upon lambda to the power 5 into d lambda upon, this term will be changed to 1 plus hc upon lambda kt minus 1. 1 will cancel out by 1. The remaining term will become E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc upon lambda to the power 5 into lambda kt d lambda upon hc. Here hc will cancel out with hc, 1 lambda will cancel out with 1 lambda. It will remain as E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi kt upon lambda to the power 4 into d lambda, and this is the form of Rayleigh-Jean's law of energy distribution. So we have seen already that Wien's energy distribution law and Rayleigh-Jeans energy distribution law can be deduced from Planck's radiation law if we put the condition of shorter wavelength and longer wavelength. Okay, now we will see another law which is termed as Wien's displacement law, and that again we will derive from Planck's radiation law. We already know Planck's radiation law in terms of wavelength is given by E lambda d lambda equals to 8 pi hc upon lambda to the power 5 into d lambda upon e to the power hc upon lambda kt minus 1. Now if we differentiate this equation with respect to lambda, what it will give? It will give the energy for unit range of wavelength. Okay, now it is given for the wavelength between lambda and lambda plus d lambda. Now we are reducing it to unit range of wavelength, and for that we can differentiate it with respect to lambda. So del E lambda upon del lambda equals to 1 upon e to the power sc upon lambda kt minus 1 into minus 5 into 8 pi sc as it is, divided by lambda to the power 6. So we can consider it as two terms, one term and second term. So first we are trying to differentiate this term here. 8 pi sc is constant, only lambda to the power 5 is variable. If we take it up, then it will become lambda to the power minus 5, and differentiation of that will give you minus 5 lambda to the power minus 5 minus 1. That will become lambda to the power 6. So it is becoming like this, and the remaining term is as it is. Plus now we will keep this term as it is, 8 pi sc upon lambda 5 into, we will differentiate of this term, it will give us 8 pi sc upon lambda to the power 5 into hc upon lambda square kt, because it was here, it will power hc upon lambda kt, divided by this whole term will be up and it will give minus 1, so minus 1 will come into minus 2 then. So if we take it in the denominator back, it will become sc upon lambda square kt into e to the power sc upon lambda kt upon e to the power sc lambda kt minus 1 to the power 2. If we rearrange this all, we will do simple mathematics, then we will find the formula lambda e lambda upon delta lambda equals to 1 upon e to the power sc upon lambda kt minus 1 into minus 40 pi hc upon lambda to the power 6 plus 8 pi sc upon lambda to the power 5 into sc upon lambda square kt into e to the power sc upon lambda kt divided by e to the power sc lambda kt minus 1 to the power 2. So this is our equation. Now we will consider the condition of maximum. So if we consider that E lambda should be maximum, for that the condition is the differentiation of E lambda should be equals to 0. So that condition we are putting in this equation, and then it will change to, this one will be 0 and the remaining term will remain as it is. Now if we solve this equation by taking some common things outside, we get at pi sc upon e to the power sc upon lambda kt minus 1 into lambda to the power 6 bracket minus 5 plus sc upon lambda kt into e to the power sc lambda kt upon e to the power sc upon lambda kt minus 1 equals to 0. Now we can take this term, because you see everything is can go to 0. The remaining term will be minus 5 plus sc upon lambda kt into e to the power sc upon lambda kt divided by e to the power sc upon lambda kt minus 1. Okay. Now let us consider sc upon lambda kt equals to x. If we put this value in equation 14, it will become minus 5 plus x into e to the power x divided by e to the power x minus 1 equals to 0. And then if we solve this equation from the method of approximation, we get the value of x as 4.965. So putting this value in this equation, x equals to hc upon lambda kt equals to 4.965. Right here, lambda is representing the wavelength at which energy per unit range of wavelength is maximum. We have considered this condition. Now representing this particular wavelength, since this is maximum, we are representing it as lambda maximum or lambda m. So equation 16 will become hc upon lambda m kt equals to 4.965. Now you see here h and c both are constant, k is constant, so we are taking this on the other side, rearranging this equation, we get lambda m into t equals to, these all terms are constant, so we can write it constant. And you can see this is the form of Wien's displacement. Okay, so this is the method how to deduce Wien's displacement law from Planck's radiation law. Now the last topic we will see in today's lecture, how to derive Stephen's law from Planck's radiation law. Now we know already in terms of frequency, Planck's radiation law can be written as E nu d nu equals to 8 pi h nu q upon c cube into 1 upon e to the power h nu upon kt minus 1 into d nu. This is for a range of frequency between nu and nu plus d nu. Now if we consider the total energy over all frequencies, that can be written by the integration of this term. So total energy E equals to integration within limits 0 to infinite of E nu d nu. Now putting the value of this from this equation, we get at pi h and c cube are constant, so we can take it outside integration. Within the limit of integration 0 to infinite, we will get nu cube upon e to the power h nu upon kt minus 1 d nu. Now for the simplicity, let us consider h nu upon kt equals to x. To solve this expression, we are putting x. So nu will be x kt upon h, and if we differentiate it, we will get d nu equals to kt upon h into dx. Now putting these all values in equation 11, what we get is E equals to 8 pi k to the power 4 t to the power 4 upon c cube into h cube integration 0 to infinite x cube dx upon e to the power x minus 1. Now from the mathematics part, the integration value can be written as pi to the power 4 divided by 15. From the general definition of general integration method, we can find the value. And putting this value in this equation, we get E equals to 8 pi to the power 5 k to the power 4 t to the power 4 divided by 15 c cube h cube. Now you see, except t, everything is constant, so we can replace it by a constant capital A. Or if it is a constant, we can write this equation in the proportional form. E is proportional to t to the power 4, where A is this value and known as radiation constant. Now we have got this equation. This we can write as E equals to sigma t to the power 4, where sigma is given by AC upon 4, and that has value of 2 pi to the power 5 k to the power 4 divided by 15 c square h cube. That gives the value of Stephen's constant. Okay, so this is Stephen's law from Planck's radiation law. Now this is the time to judge our information, judge our knowledge, whatever we have got from today's lecture. So the first question of today's quiz is given: Rayleigh-Jean's law of radiation applies to smaller wavelength, applies to longer wavelength, applies to all wavelengths, and does not apply to any wavelength. So Rayleigh-Jean's law, when we put the value to a smaller wavelength, it gives a phenomena of, ultraviolet catastrophe. That is the big reason of failure of classical theory. So that means this cannot be the right answer. Applies to longer wavelength. Yes, we have seen when we put the case of longer wavelength in even Planck's radiation law, it gives the value of Rayleigh-Jean's law. And we have also studied Rayleigh-Jean's law directly, and it applies to longer. So the right answer for this question is applies to longer wavelength, option B. The next question is: a perfect black body is that which is totally black in color, which absorb all the radiations incident on it, or is made of ideal gas named Krishnika, or can radiate all its energy. So from the definition of black body, we know that black body is a body which absorb all the radiation incident on it. So the option B is the right answer for this question. The next question is related to Stephen Boltzmann's law. What is Stephen Boltzmann's law? E equals to sigma t naught to the power 4, E equals to sigma t square, E equals to sigma into t square minus t naught square, or E equals to sigma into t to the power 4 minus t naught to the power 4. So right answer is option B, where T is the temperature of black body and T naught is the temperature of the surrounding black body. Okay, so this is the right answer. Now the next question is: electromagnetic radiation is emitted by all bodies at all temperature, all bodies at 100 degrees C, all bodies at absolute zero, or only a few bodies at all temperature. So yes, all the bodies can radiate electromagnetic radiation at any temperature. So the right answer is option A. All bodies at all temperature can radiate electromagnetic radiation. The next question is, for a perfect black body, the absorptive power is 0, 0.5, 1 and infinite. So from the definition we can understand the perfect black body is defined as a body which can absorb the all the radiation incident on the surface of this body. That means the absorptive power should be 100% or equals to 1. So the right answer for this question is option C. Next question is related to Wien's displacement law, and it is asking how to express this, by which equation it can be expressed. Lambda m into t equals to constant, lambda m into t square equals to constant, lambda m into t cube equals to constant, or lambda m under root t equals to constant. So yes, we remember that Wien's displacement law is expressed by lambda m into t equals to constant. So the option A is right answer. Seventh question is, the absolute temperature of a perfect black body is increased to twice its value. The rate of emission of energy per unit area will be 2 times, 4 times, 8 times or 16 times. Which is the right answer? You know already, E is proportional to T to the power 4. So that means if we increase the temperature twice, that means 2 to the power 4 will be the increase in emission of energy. The value of the emission of energy. So it will be increased by 2 to the power 4, that means 16 times. The right answer is option D, 16 times. Next question is, the wavelength of thermal radiation is 1000 to 2000, 4000 to 8000, or 2000 to 4000, or 1000 to 9000. So yes, wavelength of thermal radiation. The thermal radiation in electromagnetic spectrum covers the area from a part of ultraviolet spectrum, completely visible light spectrum, and completely infrared spectrum. That means the range is lying between 4000 to 8000 angstrom. The right answer is option B. Next question is, the energy of a photon is given by, yes, we know photon is the smallest unit of energy bundle, and the energy is given by h nu. So the right answer for this question is option A, h nu. Okay, now the next question is, every body emits radiations continuously to its surroundings, and at the same time it receives radiation from its surroundings. This statement is given by which of the law? So we already know that this is the heat exchange theory that was given by Parvos. So the right answer for this question is option C, Parvos theory. Okay, this is all about today's lecture. I hope everything is clear, and you have learned about the Planck's radiation law, and you have also seen how to derive different law by the Planck's radiation law. Okay, if you have any doubt or any question, please feel free to comment on this video, or feel free to write an email to me. I would be happy to answer all your questions. Please, for the other videos, for the other lectures on different topics, you can consider the other videos available on the YouTube channel of Suresh Gyan Bihar University School of Applied Science channel. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. Thank you so much.